Hello. Um, I realized that I used to do a lot more of like Q&As on Instagram and whatnot. I feel like it's not even a Q&A, kind of just I have a question and I'm curious what everyone's answer is because everyone basically like, does anyone else feel the same way that I do? I haven't done one in months. I haven't done one like since nearly the spring, I'm gonna say. And I realized that a big part of that is that like I just don't really go out at all and like socialize like a normal like 26-year-old. Um and by saying that, I mean like I don't really go into the city. Like I don't really want to. Like I'm unfortunately slash fortunately surrounded by just like older people and like, you know, like work setting, like a lot different. And you know, like some cities are just not as easy to traverse as others. Like when I lived in Denver, I went on many dates because it was easy. Like, as in, like, the city itself, the way that it's set up is just, it's very easy and quick to get anywhere. And so you can drive anywhere, opposed to this city where you have to either take a tunnel or a bridge, pay like around $20 for parking if you're gonna park, as long as it's like the weekend or the evening. And then with that, you have to either, you have to like stay like a sober driver, because the opposite is getting an Uber. And the issue with that in this city is that bars close at 2. Like that's like the state or the city law like done it too. So lights off sometimes come at like 1:50. So back in the days when I did used to go out, like if you had not already ordered your Uber by like 1:35 a.m., like a $20 ride, like with no traffic, becomes like $65. And that was a few years ago, so it's probably even more than that. Like, that's insane. That's insane. Like, that's too much. And so because of that, like I just don't, I don't really need to like go out in the city or like go out, like more of, I don't really need to go out on dates. Like if I have friends that want to go and do something in the city, fuck yeah, let's go do it. But then like you're with your own, like your friends, like your group, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter. But when you move to a new city and you don't know anyone, like I did in Denver, you go on a lot of dates because you're like, well, I want to go do this thing. I want to go check out this place or this bar, like this sporting event. Like, okay, I'll just make a date out of it. Why not? And so when you do that, you just meet a lot of people, and it makes you think a lot about people. Yes, and so like I have not done this of like asking people about like their opinions on things or just like a point to ponder, because it's been so long since I've been out engaging with younger populations. So that being said, this is not just me, like the precursor of just telling you how much of a cool cat I am because I went out. Like it's Saturday night and I went out. Like that's not that's not the point of the story. I think the point is just like it's interesting how when some people go and spend time with like the general public, especially like on an evening out, like the way they feel about it. So like I am an insanely outgoing person. Like I could make friends with a tree, to be honest. Every event, everything, like I'll just make friends with people online. But I also love super niche things. So, did I go to the largest knitting festival in the country in October? yeah, I did. Did I make friends with a group of very wonderful older women with the names ranging from Gail and Hope, or Faith maybe, and Ruth. Yeah, and like I befriended them in line because I can't help myself. I physically can't help myself because I cannot stop myself from conversing with strangers. So that is the kind of outgoing that I am, you know? Like I don't mind public speaking. I don't mind getting in front of a group of people and like saying some things. Even if I'm put on the spot. Even if I'm put on the spot, I can still get through it. So I'm that level of outgoing, I would like to say. That being said, I don't like going out on the weekends. Like, I just don't. It's just a lot. Like, there are just so many people doing so many things. And just, I don't know. And now I lost my train of thought. This is what it's like to have ADHD, by the way. I think, if anything, this video is literally what it is like to be inside the mind of someone who has ADHD. Because this is literally just like a stream of consciousness that is coming out. It is just what is going inside my brain. And one would think, like, oh, she's probably like super high or just like pretty drunk. Like, not even. Like, this is literally just like the monologue that's currently going in my brain, like, all the time. And I didn't realize that, like, other people's brains don't do that. Like, like, some people's brains, like, do not talk uncontrollably every moment of every day for their entire life. Like, literally didn't know that. So definitely, huge reason why I can talk so much is because this is literally what is going on inside of my brain. So yeah, if anyone resonates with this, check yourself. You probably have ADHD. Like, that's wild. That's pretty wild. Like, I don't know. I think it's really cool of just sharing the way, like, telling other people the way that you think, or like thoughts going on in your head / how you're processing your thoughts. Like, if you're able to internally analyze in a way that you're able to put it into words to say out loud. Basically, it's like you have to sense that your brain works differently than other people's brains. And then you have to figure out what is wrong or what is different about how your brain processes something so that you are able to articulate what your brain is doing and being like, hey, don't you do that? And if the other person is like, no, you're like, oh, wow. Interesting. Thought everyone thought that way. And they don't. They do not. Everyone thinks very differently. And it's like you find these people and you're like, oh my God, you get it. The common thread a lot of the times with me is either someone who has ADHD or someone who does not mind being around someone with severe ADHD. Like the people that I vibe with, that I have vibed with the most in my lifetime, are often intelligent females whom have unfortunately experienced some levels of like depression, anxiety, or whatnot. And those are the things that we had bonded over because we would trauma bond and trauma dump, where it's like you're like, hey, I just met you like 30 minutes ago. Here's some of my really tough background that I'm like working through. So because of that, like, I have a tendency to be like, oh my God, you're amazing. You get it. Why not? But when I really thought about it this summer, the common thread that I thought what it was their like overall understanding and having gone through things themselves and whatnot, and like understanding depression, anxiety, all that fun jazz. But I realized this summer that I think they are capable of all of those things, and it like in addition to, but largely due to the fact that they also have ADHD. Like their brains also go a billion miles per minute, and they're also intelligent and curious. So then we just have these aggressive conversations that go on and on and on. And they're so divergent. And sometimes, occasionally, someone's able to finish a story. It's honestly like so much effort to make sure that I've finished a story. Like I literally have to like make like a sticky note in my mind of being like, I know we're on a super important tangent right now and we're going this way, like super important tangent, but don't forget, like, this is the point that you need to draw back around. Like you can finish the story, and even if it goes into one other story, but like you got to tie it all the way back, like tie the bow on it. So that's what I do. I like put sticky notes in my brain to tell me to do that. One, apparently neurotypical people don't have to do that because they're able to finish a story. Besides that, that's fine. The issue is when you have two people with severe ADHD that you bring together, and no one's tying the bow because you're getting so excited and going off in so many different directions. And then when an ADHDer is tired, long day, not enough food, like blood sugar is a little low, or maybe you had something to drink, maybe you had something with marijuana in it because it is legal now, so people can say that. Any of the above. Like, take an ADHDer and suppress them a little bit, like suppress their energy a little bit, and then they are not able to tie that bow. They are not able to make it back full circle because they just completely forget what they were talking about, like entirely. It's impressive. Like, I don't do it one-on-one or like with people in person because that would be pretty weird. But like if I'm FaceTiming someone and I haven't seen them in a long time, and I'm like, oh my God, and we're like talking, and like, see, this is the thing. People with ADHD, we don't mean to interrupt you. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I genuinely care. Or at least I do. I genuinely care what you're talking about. I genuinely care what you're saying. I desperately want you to finish because I want to know. However, if I do not blurt out what is like the thought that's going on in my mind, I know that I'm going to lose it in about 6 seconds, like if I don't say it out loud, because if I don't say it out loud, then I have to continuously remind myself to oh, don't forget. Oh, don't forget. Oh, don't forget. While you're telling your story. And then in my brain, I get so caught up in hyper focusing on, oh, don't forget about this, that I've completely stopped listening to you. So it is literally more productive of a conversation, with me or someone with my kind of ADHD, if you let us just like blurt it out, like you like, please let me, and I'll just be like, hey, I'm really sorry, like I don't mean to interrupt you, blah 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 blah, and I'm just saying that because I'm gonna forget. Okay, so please continue with like what you're saying, and then like once you're done, like please remind me that I said this, and then Like that is what it's like to have a conversation with me. That's literally what it's like. That's literally what it's like to be inside of my own head. It's basically like two people talking at the same time whom are forgetful and both have ADHD. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, that's probably exactly what it's like. Especially when I'm just like too much caffeine, whatever. You have too much energy and you have too many thoughts. And that's exactly what it's like. It's literally like you have two different people who are talking who both have ADHD, who are both incapable of like finishing a story or a cohesive thought. And this is what is going on in your brain as you're trying to talk or engage with someone. So that is what leads to a lot of sensory overload. And yeah, I've been learning a lot more about ADHD, and I never realized how sensory overloaded I get. Like, I get so overloaded. Didn't know that. So that makes sense of like this evening in the theater district, like all of the theaters and shows got out at the same time. There were like a few thousand, like thousand. I'm terrible at guessing numbers. Many people, like definitely a few thousand, and everyone's like pushing up against each other. And I'm like, oh my God! I was like, I'm gonna get lost. And I was like, and I just there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people. They're all going different directions. They don't give a shit about anybody else. Like, you have to fight and just like remember where you're going, and then you have to like keep this human being, or like try to. It's very overwhelming, because like imagine that, and like all of these voices, and your brain picking up on all of these voices while you have two people with severe ADHD jabbing away in your own brain, and you just like, you can't handle it. Like, you can't listen to like all of that and take in all of the people and all of the sounds and all of the voices and all of the, it's so much. It is so much. And that is what sensory overload is. Sensory overload and like overstimulation. Like, it's just all of your senses are just so stimulated, and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And yeah, I think I realized, God, in Costco yesterday, it was the first time I've been to Costco in many years, and I really don't have panic attacks. I really don't. Like, I can be anxious about shit, but like, it's literally about like me assessing my life, my future, stuff like that. Like, existential crisis stuff. That is what I get anxious over, okay? Existential crisis. Until I go into a Costco, apparently, and my body is like, oh my God, we're gonna have a panic attack. And I'm like, don't do that. Like, we're fine. Like, we're fine. Like, we enjoy being around people, like groups of people, like big groups of people. Like, it doesn't worry us. Like, we're such extroverts. Like, don't worry about it. But then like my brain is like, no, like, that sounds good in theory, but like, there's so much going on, and everyone is just out for themselves. Like, everyone is just so chaotic. Like, it's just constant chaos. Like, there's no guessing of like where someone's gonna go so that you don't walk into them. Like, I'm not realizing, so the predictability, the complete unpredictability that causes anxiety when I'm in Costco with all these people and all these things and no one giving a shit about anybody else. It's terrifying. It's overwhelming. It is overwhelming. And let me give an example of what I mean by this. So I am a downhill skier. Love downhill skiing. Love going fast. I love going very, very fast. So with that is, if you're going super duper fast and you're skiing, you have to be able to make split-second decisions about where the people you're about to pass are most likely to go. Like it's a very split-second decision that you have to make, because if you decide incorrectly, you're gonna body that person going like 40 miles an hour, like possibly, like, or more. According to some of my ski apps, it's between 40 and 60 miles an hour of my top speeds. I don't know if I can really, like, that's like 60 is way too high, right? That's like way too high. But that's like best conditions, like best Colorado ski day to fucking, sorry, beeping, rip down a groomer, black double black diamond, like perfect groomer day. Like one app said that the app that I used this past winter said that I got up to like 60 miles an hour, and I was like, that's like too fast. Like, is that possible? I don't know. All I know is that like the downhill for the Olympics this year was shit. I mean, given they literally made a mountain, basically, like, it was terrible. Like, no records were set in this past Winter Olympics because the track was such crap. And it's like for the downhill, like I remember watching it and I was like, well, it looks like they're going fast, I guess. Like, I guess that's how fast like 100 miles an hour is. And even though it doesn't look very fast and they're slowing down in parts, no, it was in kilometers per hour. So like totally different conversion. Can my brain do it? No, because empirical is what I grew up with. And I'm bad at math, number dyslexic. So it's just like, can't quite do the conversions. Write it out. I'll be fine. But my general consensus for my math dyslexic brain is that kilometer, like if it's like 100 kilometers per hour, if you convert it into miles per hour, it's going to be less. So that's what my brain thinks. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't use kilometers. Google Maps will do miles if I'm in a different country, so kilometers hasn't really, been a big learning curve for me, or a big roadblock of sorts. See what I mean about the ADHD? I was like, oh, going fast, skiing, kilometers per hour. Okay, now we're getting back to it. This is literally what it's like being inside of my brain, and I'm just vocalizing it for you. Apparently it helps some people. My friend Kevin, he heard me doing this, and he's like, whoa, I like listening to you think because it makes me feel better about myself, like, and how he thinks. And I was like, solid. I was like, cool. I was like, if someone's getting something out of this, then sure. Do I just like talking? Yes. Is someone possibly gonna listen to this? Who knows? Late night philosophy bites with yours truly. Okay. Getting back to the point. So Olympics, yes, 100 kilometers per hour is not honestly that fast. And like Olympic skiers absolutely rip on the downhill, It's the whole point. Best in the world. They're going for the fastest land speeds on skis possible. So this past winter wasn't super high, but I think that they were like around 60 miles an hour. I think. Pretty sure, because I think I did the conversion at one point, and I was like, how much is that? And it was like around 60 miles an hour, I think was the average speed for a lot of the skiers in the downhill. And so because of that, I'm like, so is it possible for me to have done 60 miles an hour, like on the most pristine groomer day that I had with like a brand new set of skis? Sorry, that was the whole point of this story. Anticlimactic. I know. I've been told. that's how long it takes me to get back around to the point. Like, this is the issue. This is the issue. Besides the point. To the point. So one of my apps this winter, the one that I used, was like ski slopes, maybe. Slopes is what it was called, I think. It said that my top speed was around 60 this year. But then the season before that, my top speed was like 40, 41, 42. And I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, that's wicked fast. And I'm like, is that more realistic? Like, I guess my issue is like, if I said that my top speed last winter was like around and above 60 miles an hour, like, is that something that's just so outlandish that like it can't be true? Like, someone who I said that to, whom knows the speed at which like people ski and board, if it's such an outlandish number that person can look at me and be like, that girl doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, that can't be true. Like, is that 60 miles an hour? Sorry. And now I remember why I brought up the whole skiing thing. Literally, this is how difficult it is for me to tie it all together in a little bow. Okay. Split-second decisions. That's where we are. So, say, hypothetically, you are strapped into 2 twigs and you're going down a mountain at hypothetically 60 miles an hour, or something that feels that fast. And you have all of these people going like this in front of you. And I mean, if you're absolutely ripping it, you should probably not do it on a super busy trail, especially with a lot of newbies and Jerry's. Like, probably don't do that. Maybe, like, unless you're gonna like stay to the sides and like just dip in and out of the trees, like, whatever, do you, don't run on anyone over. But me, like, if I'm ripping that hard, I can't deal with a lot of people in front of me because they don't know what they're doing. Because, you know, not surprisingly, skier and boarder newbies will just turn very erratically without warning, because they're worried they're getting too far one side or they're going too fast. So they're like, nah. So you can't predict what they're gonna do. So if you're trying to shoot the gap between 2 skiers or 2 boarders and they're youngins, they're new ones, like, they could be both going this way and you're going to shoot the gap between them. But if they're novices, they could both decide to basically tack, like a sailing tack, because that's literally what it is. Wow. Actually, that is what it is. And just, you know what I mean? And then you get sandwiched, and then you body someone going faster than a human should probably be able to go without a motor. Or skydiving. So like, you have to be able to make really great split-second decisions. And so if you're able to do that, so you're able to do what you want, like, and, you know, just rip it, like, you can't go to a trail that's like has a ton of people on it. Like, there has to be less people. And like, my favorite mountain is Keystone. Shout Keystone, out in Colorado. Breck's cool and all, Keystone's where it's at. And any of my ski friends who like have the epic, you understand. Keystone all the way, baby. And it's because they have like the front mountain, and then they have a mountain behind that, and then a mountain behind that. And so like, to get back here, like, you have to be a good skier. Like, the trail down is icy and dangerous. And so like, if you're going out back, like, you're going to the outback, like, you have to be a decent skier. So if I'm gonna do trails where I'm gonna absolutely rip it, I'm gonna go back there, because there's going to be so many fewer people that I have to worry about, and I have to, like, yeah, just worry about. Like, when you're back there, or when you're around people who are at a similar or higher skill level, like, you're not as worried about them making an erratic decision. And so, like, the parallel to that is when I was doing jujitsu, and I would ask a ton of questions, and it's like white belts in both, well, maybe more judo, because I was doing both. I'd do like back to back lessons because I was like, if I do one, then I can do the other for free. Shout out Denver Judo. Fun times. But basically they're saying that like white belts are often the most dangerous because they're the most unpredictable. They don't know how to do things properly, and so they're more likely to hurt someone. And it's like it's less likely that the person that you're fighting, even if they're a higher rank than you, they might not be able to guess what your move's gonna be or what you're gonna do, because you're acting on instinct. You're not acting on like what, like the information and knowledge and schooling and that you had learned and education. So you're not basing it off of your education, you're basing it off of base instinct. And so because of that, you can do anything. And so it's a lot more erratic. It's a lot less easy to predict. And so it's the same thing when like you're on the mountain and you're doing resort like ripping, and like you're super newbies, like they're just a lot less predictable. And especially if you have people who are wiping out, like snowboarders and stuff, you have no idea when they're gonna wipe out right in front of you, and it's very scary. So like going to the back, you have a lot less to worry about, all of that stuff. Oh my god, sorry, I came so close to finishing this story and tying it up with a bow, and then I just really had to elaborate on all of that. And see, this is why it's so exhausting being inside the brain of someone with ADHD. Like, I'm exhausted all the time because this is literally what I'm thinking all day long. All day long. All day long. All day long. Even when someone is talking to me, both of these conversations are going on in my head, and one of them is definitely not about what we're talking about. Okay. Force myself, bring it back. I hope you laugh at what I'm about to say, because you're like, oh, this is what we're tying it back to. I remember. Costco. That's where we're tying it back to. Yes, so Costco, panic attack, not knowing why. Now I know why, because I thought about it. Because it really bothered me, and I was like, well, it bothers me because I don't get panic attacks. And if I do, apparently I do occasionally, or I get very anxious, let's understand why I got like this, so I understand what triggered this, so I understand what to do next time or how to avoid the situation. All of the above. Like Costco on a Friday apparently bumps, so don't go there if you have a little, not even social anxiety, overstimulation anxiety, whatever. So on top of so many products that it is just truly mind-blowing that you're capable of buying them all in one place and at such quantities, like you're taking in all of this and it's just so much, and you're like, wow, okay, so like your brain, my brain, whoa, okay, whoa. And then like, were they playing music? I don't even know. I think like, or there may have been music, or it was just like overhead announcements, like talking to different departments, because the place is so big, and like that's the only way to like communicate is like over the loudspeaker, and like it's just such a big place that is frequent enough to be confused with possibly music. So there's that. And then you have all of these people. Oh my god, there's so many people. And like having a lot of people is one thing. Like it's whatever. Like you're in a big crowd, you're moving in the same direction. Fuck yeah, it's fine. We're gonna get there. But what happens when everyone is just out for themselves? Everyone is out for themselves. Like everyone is just like, you have no idea when someone's gonna stop. You have no idea. Like you can't just, it's like driving a car when you're pushing that cart in Costco, it's like driving your car that like in the city or just in general on the highway. It's like the traffic is, you know, building but hasn't come to a standstill yet. You look away, like you see a cool bird because that's me. You see a cool bird and you're like, oh my god, bird. And so you like take your eyes off the road for 2 seconds, and then someone slams on their brakes in front of you and you're like, oh shit. And like you have to like slam on your brakes too. That is what it's like to drive with a freaking cart in Costco while having ADHD, because you are constantly being stimulated by, oh my god, what is that? Look at that. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, while you're supposed to continue the forward motion of the crowd of like go in and follow, you know, the path around. So you're doing that, and then the person in front of you just stops because they saw freaking fleece pajama bottoms for their son, and they're like, yes. And I'm like, oh my god, I had no idea you were going to do that. I had zero information or ability to even guess that that was going to be your decision, like your move, like that's what you're going to do. And like I know that sounds like crazy and controlling. I don't care what people do. Do your own thing. But when it comes from the perspective of a downhill skier of going between 40 to 60 miles an hour, and you have to make a decision of what this skier is going to do, like are they going to bank it to the left or bank it to the right? Like what are you doing? And so I have to have enough wherewithal, or like to be able to make an educated guess of they look like a good skier, and based on their patterns they're going to go left, so I can cut them on the outside. Okay? Like I have to do that. It is literally for survival, because if I make the wrong decision, I'm bodying them. Things are getting broken. Many things are getting broken, and my wallet's going to be hurting because this person's probably going to sue me, or I have to pay for their medical bills for bundling them. And it being my fault. And knowing that it was my fault because I was going really fast. So like I've trained my brain to have to be able to anticipate someone's next move and deal with that. So that's skiing. That's sports in general, but definitely combative martial arts kind of sports, because like that's the whole point, is like guessing what your opponent's next move is. Like I think that's kind of the difference between like a good fighter and a great, or I could be wrong, whatever. Being able to have a good guess of what your opponent is going to do next, or the person's going to do next, can put you in a more beneficial position. Apparently the same is for downhill skiing. And apparently when you have that instinct and really bad ADHD and are super overstimulated, all of that is too much when you're surrounded by people at Costco and you have no idea when they're going to stop, or who's about to walk in front of you, or what child is going to just stray directly in front of your carriage while there's another carriage like coming, like he is about to get squashed between you and another cart, because it's the same as when people just cross the street and they're not looking at all. Like that's what it's like when a child just strays in front of your cart, because your cart is big enough to do enough damage that is somewhat equivalent to how much damage a car would do to an adult if someone stepped out on a city road that was like a side road. So like I'm thinking of a very specific road in the city that like every 300 feet, less than that, again, terrible at estimating any sort of amount, distance, numbers, speed, who knows. I don't know, let's say every 300 feet there's like another stop sign, so it's like this constant stopping, and it's like in the city or just outside the city. So like you have a lot of people and there's a train station there. So it's like constant people just stepping off. So because of that, like, you know, you have to drive slower, like because of the constant stopping, you know, you have to be like aware. But you just like, you can't just rip 40 miles an hour down the road. Like you physically can't get it. Like you would have to just gas it to try to get that fast. Well, I mean, you could, but before you go to the next stop sign, like you're gonna hit another stop sign. What's the point? And there's so many people walking out everywhere. Don't gun it because you're gonna hit someone. So it's like, that's what Costco is like. It's like driving down that road. No, that is what when children stray in front of your cart at Costco. It is just like driving on a city street with a lot of stop signs near a train station and someone just like walking right out in front of your car. And because you're going, like, if it's an adult, like you're going theoretically slow enough so that if you hit them, God forbid, still awful, like really bad. But like they're not gonna like explode. Like hopefully, like if you stopped at a stop sign and then the person, like, you didn't see the person and then you started going and then they like, you started going and they were walking across the street and then like, so it's, you kind of came to like, you came to a stop, then you were rolling forward and then you hit them, like that kind of like that's what I mean by like hitting someone like who's just like kind of walking off the curb, like not really paying attention. Again, I'm thinking of a very specific street. Wish I could paint the picture for you. And actually, I mean, with all the details I may have, besides the point. So it's like that level of like speed, momentum, weight, force, you know, all of that, like an adult. So that I feel like is fairly comparable to if a friggin' 5-year-old walks in front of my cart at Costco and I, like, God forbid I didn't see them because they weren't there a second ago when I went from this to this. And also they're not at my field of vision. Like I'm up here, you're down here. Like I don't like see you. Like you can't see my hand. And that's the equivalent of a 5-year-old walking in front of your cart at Costco. And it's just a lot. Like, why is it my responsibility not to run over these people while I'm being so overstimulated by all of the products that are in this one physical building? So if you're ever curious about what sensory overload is like, dear God, yeah, I just spelled it out for you. And if you resonate with even half the things that I talked about, you probably have ADHD. Yeah. Yeah. These are like, it's both like philosophy bites, like late night philosophy bites with Christy. But then also, this is what it's like being in the mind of someone with ADHD. And now all I can think about is how much I want to go and finish my tea that's probably really cold that I've been staring at when I keep looking up, looking over there. Cup of tea. ADHD, man. Okay, and with that, have a wonderful day, night, whatever you're doing. And thanks. Thanks for listening along to these crazy little thoughts.